Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video. This is Crescent Dreams Tarot, and wow, it almost feels like I haven't done a video in a while, at least where my voice sounds more normal, a little, just a little. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. This video is kind of me, I guess I'm doing a wrap up. I never thought I would do like a wrap up video. I see a lot of people on TarotTube, they have videos where they're talking about the things they did in the past month. I didn't think I would be doing that, but then I forgot to post what my card of the month was for April. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I just need to talk about everything I did in April. I am also armed as usual with coffee. So you might hear occasional sips of that. But anyways, let's dive into it. April was kind of a weird month. I'm not going to lie. There were moments in April that were really, really good. And then there were moments in April where I was like, what in the hell? Just being honest, like what in the hell is going on? I'll start with, I guess, I don't know what people find more interesting. I'll start with tarot stuff, and then I'm going to talk about this. This is like book related and other things I did, shenanigans during the month. So to get right into it, tarot. First off, because I do want to talk about that, it's something I do in my practice. I do think about my cards of the month often during the month. And my card of the month was the Five of Swords. Now, what's interesting about getting this card as the Five of Swords is this is not a card I've drawn very much at all, ever. So I kind of had to stop and think about how this card could have affected my month at the start of the month and then maybe by the end of the month. And to be honest with you, I'm still a little confused with this, like how it related to me in the month of April, because I feel like April was a month where I won some, but I also lost bits. I don't think it was really, what's the word? Outward. Like, I don't think anybody in my life necessarily lost anything. And I wasn't, I'm not usually somebody who interacts with enough people anyways that someone is going to lose by my actions. Does that make sense? Maybe my students. I mean, I could see in the sense that April was just a really weird month, especially if you work in education, by the way. April is just a really bizarro month. I mean, we had a week for spring break, but other than that, I mean, I did lose my voice, so you can kind of hear it's not like 100% the same. So that was also a thing. And I guess you could say someone lost because there was a day where I had to not show up to work because I literally could not talk. There was like no sound once again coming out of me. So trying to think on that in April, but this was my card of the month. And the reason why I'm showing this is because Practical Magic was the deck I used the most heavily in April. The reason, well, it was one of the decks I picked. You're going to see the other ones I picked for April and used in April in just a second. But I ended up using Practical Magic the most because I also took part in the VR One Deck Gone Wild, where you basically take one tarot deck and you answer a bunch of questions related to it. Now, my voice sounded like shit, so if you saw that video, I am so sorry. You probably didn't hear me very well. And I'm probably going to do that video again with a different deck, but I am going to keep this up in case people really wanted to see this. But actually, you know what? I'm going to try a different style. I'm going to go like this. So, oh, and by the way, sorry for the lighting. This is like, I'm filming really early morning, And what's really interesting right now, because it's May already, but what's really interesting, it's still raining. I'm in California and we still have rain. That's amazing. I'm like, what the hell? Um, that's a mood, right? It's a mood of the month. Practical Magic, though, is a really interesting deck. And I use it the most, I guess, because I was doing the one deck on Wild. But I also just used it a lot because, well, I do week ahead spreads. That's my main thing in my practice is I do week ahead spreads, and this deck ended up coming up, right, as one of them. And during that week too, it gave me a really good reading. Like I kind of understood everything it was trying to tell me, things that were supposed to be happening with this deck. And it's a really fun one. So if you don't know Practical Magic, it's created by Chingue Labrador. She's a Filipina creator. She might even, I think she has a tarot channel somewhere here. If I remember, I will link it down below in the description. So, just so you know. But I love this deck. It's got this really youthful energy. It kind of reminds me of aesthetics and things from when I would have been in high school maybe, or like early college. It's got that kind of vibe. It's really fun, really flirty. It's just such a different deck. It's got a lot of pinks and teal, so it explores that a bit too. It's collage style, as you can see. But it's collage style in a way that you can still see. I don't know how to explain this. I'm really picky when it comes to collage decks, if you guys didn't notice. I only have like a couple. Because sometimes you can just tell all somebody did was they just layered a bunch of things on top of each other and just left it. Like there was no like artistic embellishments or like fun add-ons that you could tell were like added in to make it look more, I don't know, just more different and like showing the artist's more unique style instead of just collaging everything. But that's why I like this deck, is because it has bits of everything. So yeah, this was the main deck I used, sorry, in April. But it wasn't the only deck, so I'm going to show what else I was using. By the way, I now have my Instagram linked on my page. I don't know why the hell it wasn't before, but it's there now. On Instagram, I basically just use it to show like the spreads and things I'm doing. But yeah, Practical Magic was on there. And I also used these 3 plus 1 Oracle. So every month, I've kind of decided for myself, is like every month I pick only 4 decks, like 4 tarot decks and 1 Oracle to use. Just so I can narrow down my collection, spend some time with certain decks, and kind of get, you know, feel like I'm actually using the decks that I own, you know. I don't have as big of a collection as some people, but for me, I'm already getting nervous. It's getting a little bigger than I originally thought my collection would ever be. So I'm trying to be real intentional with the decks I use. So yes, I use basically 4 tarot and 1 Oracle. And I will show all these quickly for those who have never seen these. I will start, though, with Mini Cat Tarot. If you've been around my channel a while, you've probably seen this deck. It's one of my favorite indie decks, I would say, ever. The creators are here. That's her website, Rachel Logan. This deck is so stinking fun. It is so fun. It's a square deck. I really like the card stock, and it's all about cats. The production quality on this box, though, is just so good. It's held up really well. It comes with a little guidebook. Now, the guidebook is not, like, the most extensive thing in the world. As you can see, like, it just gives you, like, little keywords. There's a little more paragraph for the major arcana. And they at least give single card reading and 3 card. But that's kind of, like, all it dives into. Just so you know. This creator is from the UK, so if you're going to try to get this deck, just be aware. It's from the UK. I got it on Etsy, but I got it a while ago before VTA things, VAT things, going cuckoo bananas, basically. But this deck, if you love cats, you probably should have this deck. The backs are not 100% reversible, but sometimes you can't tell because they're square, like which direction. But this kitty's supposed to be on top. This one's on the bottom. These are the cards. The card stock is square. It's a good card stock. I don't know. It bends back really easy. So if you're someone who, well, I don't know how people riffle shuffle square decks, to be honest. Sorry, took a coffee sip. I don't know how people shuffle square decks. I just overhand because, again, I just overhand. I don't do riffle and all that. I never learned the motor skills for that. Just autistic things. We have issues with some things. Some people can do it, some people can't. I've always had issues with some motor skills. But anyways, what I love about this deck. Well, it is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. I'm not going to lie. As you can see, right? It's very traditional, more traditional Rider-Waite-Smith style of a deck. Even some of the colors, like this Three of Wands, is kind of similar. But it's cats. And they are illustrated in the cutest way possible. I don't know how to explain it. Because I've noticed I love cats. I have a cat. But I'm really picky about cat decks too. I only like them if the cats don't look super realistic. That doesn't make any goddamn sense, probably, but that's how I am. I just want them to be goofy. I don't like things that are like too, I don't know, I guess too realistic. Especially because like there is a card, I think it's the Ten of Swords in here, obviously, where the cat's like stabbed through. I just don't like that imagery if it's like a real cat. But as you can see, it's like a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. It's a really fun deck, though. This deck is basically a deck that I could take anywhere because, it's just cats. They're just doing silly little things. Not in anything like more sexual or otherwise where it might bother some people. So I've actually taken this deck to work before. Because, see, even the devil, right? It's like, because they're cats. It's not like showing naked people, I mean, nothing wrong with those decks. Nothing wrong with those decks. It's just like, when you don't know your crowd, it's really good to have decks that are all-rounders. So yes, I use this deck during the month of April. It was the beginning of April because it's a really fun, like, I don't know. It's just a really fun start to the month, especially coming off of March, which was the Queen of Wands month for me. So, yeah. Mini Cat Tarot. Really good one. And I also used it during the month of April. Now, another deck that I used during this month, although I'm not going to lie, I've noticed something really interesting with me. I don't like decks. I'm starting to realize I don't like decks that are just trying to hug me and squish me tight. Does that make sense? It's like the decks that they're just too gentle with you. And that's what I'm starting to feel like is happening with the Spacious Tarot. I have the expansion pack too. I stuck it in the box. That's why this is also in here. So I have the expansion with this. So it's like a Minchiati or whatever it's called deck. This deck is beautiful. Not gonna lie. I'm obsessed. I am obsessed with the artwork. It's very gentle. It's very soft. But I'm starting to notice that because this deck feels very much like too lovey-dovey huggy, I sometimes have a hard time taking it seriously and I don't reach for it as much. Does that make any goddamn sense? I don't know if it does. Which is a pity though, because the artwork is so beautiful, but I just find myself getting like super, super annoyed with it at times. And this is Behemoth because I have the expansion in here. But this deck, as you can see, it's so gentle. It's so nice. And I can read, for the most part, I can read it intuitively. But there are some cards in here where I'm just like, what in the hell? Like, how is that supposed to be, what it is? And it's a beautiful deck. I did use it for a week ahead spread. But it's just it's very gentle. If you're someone who's been looking for a hug deck, this could be the deck for you. Oh, except this card. Yeah. Poor rabbit. See, but that's what I mean, is like sometimes it has moments like even this that reminds me of a time in history, in Portuguese history. And it's not like it doesn't have like great cards. And like some of these cards, if you guys even saw my deep dive videos into the Minor Arcana, you would have seen cards from this deck. So there's beautiful art in here. Decks that cards of which that are probably my favorite depictions ever of some tarot decks. But sometimes it's too gentle. And I know that, again, I don't think that makes sense. Maybe. It's not that I do I do deep shadow work with my decks. It's just sometimes I need to understand, like I need a lot of times sword energy readings, maybe, and this feels almost too watery. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Like water mixed with earth, but in a very gentle, let me hug you way. I think, So, Spacious Tarot. I worked with it, but not extensively, Because, I don't know. I guess I'm just having problems, like, piecing it all together with this deck. Maybe we will have a time in the future where all of a sudden it clicks and I understand this deck a lot better. But for now, it's been a little harder, not gonna lie, so is what it is. Anyways, on to the next deck. Last deck I used in April was the Paulina Tarot. Let me take another sip of my coffee. Okay, Paulina. The reason why I picked Paulina for the month of April is, you could probably tell by the box, it's very spring-like. It's got that energy where it's very fun and whimsical. It was a deck I pulled out during, I guess, what traditionally in my family would have been Easter season, but I know a lot of people were celebrating, God, what the hell is it called? I'm not Wiccan, and I don't really follow. I loosely know the holidays, the pagan holidays, but I don't 100% keep track of that. I believe it's Beltane, right? Was it Beltane that just passed? So a lot of people were really into Beltane. But this kind of gives the same vibes for me. Does that make sense? This is a Paulina, though. You guys saw I did help me choose a while back trying to get this deck. So I wanted to be able to have a month where I used it, and I knew that April was going to be a time that I would reach for it. And I did, and it gave decent reading. I think I would need to do more work with this deck to bond with it more, though. I don't think we're at that kind of level. But let me show off some of the cards. The Paulina Tarot is a really, really cool deck. Paulina, what did she go by on this box? Oh, she went by Paulina Cassidy, but I believe she now goes by Paulina Faye. She's got a lot of decks in the tarot too, but this was, I believe, her first. Her art style is really freaking cool. It's like fantasy, but it's got a lot of intricate detail, which some people, especially in her early decks, very much detailed, but not everybody for some reason jives. And I guess I can see why. Like, if you don't have the greatest eyesight, this can be a little hard. Like, look at, for instance, oh, funny enough, Two of Pentacles, one of my favorites in this deck. It's got a lot. See, she does a lot of detailed line work for those who don't know like anything about art related terms or whatever. She's got a lot of line work, a lot of shading, a lot of different elements incorporated into it. And this, if I wasn't going like this, it'd be much harder for people to see, right? So I know this is not a deck that everybody has in their collection or reaches for, but I really enjoy the vibes. It's very Victorian, but it's also very fantasy-like, but it's also like, you know, fashion-y. See, like especially right there with the lovers. But it's got this almost, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe people will relate. It's almost got this like Tim Burton vibe, but if Tim Burton had a pastel aesthetic instead of like a more, I don't know, emo goth aesthetic, whatever you want to call it. Does that make any sense? Does anyone know what the fuck I mean by that? You could tell me in the comments. I have no clue. But it kind of gives me those vibes. It's really strange. But I really, like, even this especially, look at it. It's like the pastel goth Tim Burton. I don't know. Oh, it gives me it, okay? Okay. It just does. So it's a really fun deck, and I brought it out for April because why the fuck not, you know? Sometimes you just need a little fun and silliness during the month. And that's why I pulled it. Now, interesting about me, you guys will see it more. It'll be more apparent by the end of the year. So I'm just going to make this comment now, and then you guys will slowly over time probably realize it too. This year I'm having an interesting renaissance where I'm starting to bring more Oracle decks in my collection. And this was one I brought in a little bit ago. This is the Wild Child Oracle cards. This is by, there we go. This is by the same creator who did the Wild Child Tarot now and the Healing Waves Tarot. Same one. When I saw this deck was out in the world as an Oracle, I snatched it up because I love the artist, but particularly I liked just the art of this deck a lot. And because I will probably never get the Healing Waves Tarot, you know, I want some artwork from this creator. This is the box that comes in. Kind of big, kind of bulky. It has this guidebook that's like a rose petal finish. And each of the card meanings for this oracle are kind of written like a poem. Now, because the creators are not like English, some of the translation's a little off, but that's okay. What I should say about this oracle is that it's very, as you can see, it's an oval shape, which, not gonna lie, is a little hard sometimes to shuffle. I'll show you what I mean. Like, you could do it long. My fingers are really tiny, so even if I go like this, it hurts. You know, it's not elegant of a shuffle. Even doing this way though was kind of weird, but that's how I did it. Deck specs. It's a little thicker of cardstock, interestingly, but it is rose petal finish, so it kind of like sticks to everything, which is not my fave. Not my fave. It's not the worst cardstock, but as you can see, it's really hard to shuffle. But the art is beautiful. And I use this during the month of April to kind of just get a sense of what energy I need to bring in. So for me, I'm still figuring out how to incorporate oracles more, but I've been buying more of them because I'm finding more art of oracles that I find really interesting. I'm just going to go this way. So there's some really beautiful cards here. As you can see, like this watercolor work is fantastic. But when I use a deck, why are all my, oh my God, they're upside down. I'm still incorporating the oracle. And the main way I use it is that I pull 3 cards to get a sense of what energies I should bring in for a day. So this is kind of more of what I do daily card spreads with. Because I do a week ahead spread for tarot, and then sometimes pull some energy for oracle, you know. And this deck is just, it's so beautiful. But I'm not going to lie, sometimes there was kind of a disconnect with like what energy I thought I needed and what the card's keyword, I guess, was. Some of them were a little harder for me to dissect. But I kept getting some a lot. Like reach. I got reach a lot. I got currents during one of my parts and fog. So some of them, it's like I understood where it was coming. But it takes Trove. I've got Trove a little bit. But it took a little bit of time, you know. But undeniably, the artwork is beautiful. And I was glad I used it. It has a very, as you can see, especially this card, because I got this card a few times. This card is stunning. Inner Garden. It's very spring-like, you know, that early spring sense, or even like now in May, which is why I pulled it. Now I have a different deck I'm working with in May for Oracle, but this was just nice. It had that energy to it. That was really good. And yeah, I enjoyed it. But, oh, sorry. Not everybody likes bugs. Even this, I guess, has bugs. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get better at that because I know a few people I really admire here on TarotTube. They don't like bugs, so I try to cover up bugs as much as I can. I realize not everyone likes bugs. I don't mind bugs. I don't. I sometimes don't like spiders if they're like in my own house. Other than that, if they're in the wild or doing their own things, I don't go up to them. I don't bother them. And I don't usually care. Maybe cockroaches. Don't like cockroaches. But most bugs, they're okay. But yeah, that was the end of my segment where I talk about tarot decks. If you don't give a shit about the other things I'm going to talk about. Sorry, quick coffee break. If you don't care about books and games, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about movies, but I didn't bring any of those in front of me. You don't care about those things, you can kind of click out this video now. But for those who like knowing what other people were doing during a month, I'm going to show some stuff now that is not tarot related. So, month of April, as I mentioned, was spring break for me at my work. Kids were off for a week. I was off for a week. It was nice. I got to decompress. I had a day where I went to the city. And when I say the city, I'm talking about San Francisco here. I live in California, Northern California. I'm not going to tell you where specifically, obviously, but yeah. So had a day where I got to relax. But when I wasn't traveling about, I was reading, and I also played a game. It's been a while since I got to play Switch games, but yeah, I started playing Pokemon Violet. I don't know, this game, I like it, but I'm not done. But at the same time, it doesn't have that same. There's something really weird about this game where it didn't give me the same like Pokemon vibes as much, even though I saw Pokemon that were familiar. Some of the newer ones just didn't have the same vibe, but it was interesting. I'm obsessed with Pokemon, so you guys can talk to me about Pokemon anytime. But I started playing this game in April, and I read 2 books. Well, I kind of finished the second one, like very early May, but I started reading it in April. But the first book that I was reading during April was The Once and Future Witches. This is by Alex E. Harrow. She has a couple of other books, I believe, but I've only read this one so far. The Once and Future Witches is a really, well, obviously, if you like witchcraft at all, you will probably really like this book. It talks about witchcraft very, very much. This is the the spine. This is the back. I'll read the summary for people who might be interested. There's no like pictures. It's a big kind of book. It says in 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be in the wild, dark days before the burnings began. But now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it at the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters, James Jupiter, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna join the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. And then there's a bit about, like, you know, someone that's stalking them in the shadows and all that kind of stuff. This book was so good. I would put it, for me personally, I think I would put this book... I don't know if it'd be 100% a 5-star read for me, but it's definitely like a 4 to 4.5. Does that make sense? If you're someone who really likes character-driven books, you're going to like this book because the three sisters had a very kind of complicated dynamic at the start. A lot of things happened to them in their past, but it goes deep into each of the characters and like their motivations and how they view witchcraft and others around them. It was a really good book. Very flowery language too. So if you like books that have more like, they care more about the craft of writing, like making it look and sound pretty, this book does a lot of that. Now, I will say some of the plot it depends. Like there was parts I really liked, but there was parts I thought could have been developed more even though this book was already so big. So on that end, it's definitely more character story. So if you like characters a lot, I would recommend picking this up. But I did enjoy it a lot. Especially like a lot of the relationships that were in this book. Really, really good. So yeah, I read this for most of April. But then I also read this book. This is called The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And as it says here, she is also the author of the book The Night Circus, if you've never read that. Or if you have, I read The Night Circus, but I was a child the last time I read this, to be honest. So I don't remember much about it. I still own it, so I'm probably need to go back and reread it. But I loved this one. Funny thing about The Starless Sea, this is, by the way, I think this is the UK edition. Before Book Depository crashed, I got this a while back. I got this edition because I just loved it. It's so beautiful. This book is for people who like plot more and stories within stories. I think you'll really like this. But the funny thing about The Starless Sea is that this is a book that I've seen people be very divided on. I've seen people who absolutely loved it. No flaws. They thought it was a perfect book. And then the other spectrum is people thought it was either really boring or really confusing, and then they didn't pick it up. And that stems from what this book is about. So, The Starless Sea is mainly about this boy. Well, not boy. He's a young man. He's college age, getting his master's. Zachary Rollins stumbles across a mysterious library book containing details from his own life among its pages. It leads him on a quest unlike any other. So following the clues inside, he is guided to a masquerade party, a dangerous secret club, and finally to a labyrinth filled with stories, hidden far beneath the surface of the earth. But when the labyrinth is threatened, Zachary must race through its twisting tunnels and crowded ballrooms, searching for the end of his story. This book is it was a great book. This is also like a 4.5 read for me. What I find most fascinating about this book, again, is a story within a story. So there's parts of the book that flip to Zachary's perspective, and then there's parts of the book that have other fairy tales that like she kind of made up in the book on the page. That might seem confusing, but all those fairy tales and things she talks about tie in to the story. Like they get brought up later and other things happen with them. So they're not like random. If people don't know that going in though, I could see how this book would be very confusing. You're like, what the fuck? How does this make any sense related to the other bits, you know? But I really enjoyed this. Now, I will say character-wise, I feel like that's probably my biggest holdback with this book is why it wouldn't be like a 5 read for me either, is that I feel like the characters in some ways, some of them, not all of them, but some of them need to be fleshed out more because the book was going so action-packed, go, go, go kind of thing with the plot. But this storytelling-wise, this was done so well. And the ending too makes sense. It just came on very suddenly. I will say that for those who are wondering. But really good book. I would recommend it to those who really like the idea of fairy tale like stories. Places beneath the sea filled with books. It was really cool. It was really cool. There were some moments where I was like, oh shit, what the hell is happening? Because it just got really intense really quickly, but really liked this. So book-wise, great. April was great for books. And I forgot to bring them in front of me, but I was also watching some movies in April. I rewatched, it's been years since I watched this movie, but The Swan Princess, if anybody knows what that one is. And I also did a rewatch of Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's such a good movie too. If you've never seen it, it is very long though. So if you're someone who doesn't like long movies, I wouldn't recommend you watch it. And other than that, I don't think I did too much in April. I will say now, but you got to watch my next video for this. I did acquire 5 decks in April, but I'm going to show those decks in a different video, okay? Just telling you now. So next time, tune in to see what decks I got in April, and I will see you all again then. Bye.